All right, so get this. Remember,
The Menendez brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 90s, you couldn't escape their story. It was everywhere.
It was inescapable.
It really was.
Yeah.
Well, decades later, there's a new twist in this infamous case, and we're diving right in.
Wow.
We've got excerpts from a recent Forbes article that really digs deep into where Lyle and Erik Menendez are now, and more importantly, what this new evidence could mean for their future.
Yeah, this case, I mean, what's striking is how even after all this time, it still has that power to divide and challenge us. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about family, justice, the weight of truth.
Exactly. So for anyone who might need a quick refresher, picture this. 1989 lavish Beverly Hills mansion and a horrific crime. Lyle and Erik Menendez are convicted of murdering their parents. But here's where it gets really interesting. Their defense hinges on a claim of years of abuse.
Yes.
It wasn't a crime of passion. It was self-defense, they claimed. A desperate act to escape a terrifying situation.
And that right there, that's the heart of it. It wasn't just about proving who pulled the trigger, but WHY.
Right.
Were they driven by greed for the family fortune, as the prosecution argued, or were they driven to this horrific act out of a desperate need to protect themselves?
And the article doesn't shy away from the contradictions. It highlights how, after the murders, the brothers went on a massive spending spree. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars on Rolex watches, designer clothes, even a Porsche.
Yeah.
It's hard to reconcile that image with the picture of two terrified young men driven to a desperate act.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If their claims of abuse were true, could that spending be viewed through a different lens? Not as cold-blooded greed, but maybe as a warped reaction to years of trauma.
Okay, so we're talking about new evidence that could potentially turn this whole case on its head.
Yeah.
What exactly are we looking at?
So we've got two major pieces of evidence laid out in this Forbes article.
Okay.
First, there's a letter Erik wrote to his cousin just months before the murders.
Wow.
In it, he talks about being terrified, even hinting at abuse by their father.
I can only imagine how chilling that letter must be.
Yeah.
A glimpse into the mind of a young man living in fear, especially if he felt trapped in that situation.
Right.
But does a letter like this carry any real legal weight?
That's the tricky part. See, the cousin actually testified about the abuse during the original trials,
Right.
but back then, the prosecution claimed he was lying.
Oh.
This letter, though, could back up his story, give it a new level of credibility it didn't have before.
Okay, so that's one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
What about the other bombshell the article mentions?
This one's a real curveball.
Okay.
Remember, this case has been a media sensation for decades.
It really is.
And now someone completely out of left field comes forward.
Yeah.
Roy Rossello, a former member of the popular boy band Menudo.
Menudo. Now that's a blast from the past. What's his connection to the Menendez family?
So Rossello claims that he, too, was sexually abused by José Menendez back when he was a teenager.
What?
He's even gone so far as to file a sworn affidavit detailing these accusations.
If that's true, it paints a much darker picture of José Menendez.
Oh, absolutely.
This isn't just one isolated incident anymore.
Right.
It suggests a pattern of abuse.
Exactly. The defense is trying to build a case that goes beyond reasonable doubt.
Wow.
They're aiming to portray José Menendez as a serial abuser, someone who instilled such deep fear in his sons that their actions, however horrific, could be seen as a desperate act of self-preservation.
So you've got Erik's letter hinting at abuse,
Yeah.
and now Rossello's claims alleging a history of predatory behavior by José Menendez.
Yeah.
A pretty powerful 1-2 punch.
It is.
But what does this mean for the Menendez brothers? Could this new evidence actually overturn their convictions?
It definitely throws a wrench in things.
Yeah.
Their lawyer, Claire Gardner, is using all of this in a habeas petition, arguing that their conviction should be thrown out. He's pushing for their release, claiming they were failed by the justice system the first time around.
Wow. So what happens now?
Well,
Is the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office just going to take this line down?
not so fast. The article says they're taking these new claims seriously and are actively investigating,
Okay.
but overturning a murder conviction,
Right.
especially one this high profile,
Right.
that's a steep uphill battle.
It makes you wonder, what would it take for a case like this to be revisited after so long?
It's a long shot, no doubt.
Yeah.
The bar for overturning a conviction is incredibly high,
Right.
but the possibility is there, however slim.
Yeah.
If the abuse allegations are substantiated, it could lead to a retrial or even the unthinkable, the convictions being overturned altogether. We're not just talking about a retrial here. we're potentially talking about acknowledging a massive miscarriage of justice.
It's mind-boggling to think about. On the one hand, you have these brothers who were living lavishly after their parents' deaths. But on the other hand, there's this possibility that they were deeply traumatized individuals driven to a truly desperate act.
Right.
It's hard to reconcile those two images.
It really speaks to the complexities of trauma. We can't expect people to process abuse in predictable ways.
Right.
Especially when it comes to something as devastating as the death of a parent.
Of course.
Even under these circumstances, the human psyche is far more intricate than that.
It certainly makes you question everything you thought you knew about the case. So where does all of this leave us? We've got a crime that captivated the nation, a trial that was debated endlessly, and now, decades later, this new evidence emerges that throws everything we thought we knew into question.
It really underscores the fact that the pursuit of justice is rarely simple or clear-cut. The Menendez case, for many, seemed like a closed book, but with this new evidence, we're seeing that there are still chapters being written.
It makes you wonder what else is out there. What other stories of abuse remain hidden, maybe silenced by fear or simply by the passage of time?
It's a sobering thought, and it highlights how important it is to listen to survivors, to believe those who come forward no matter how much time has passed.
This case is a stark reminder that the truth has a way of coming to light, even after years of being buried. It might be messy, it might be painful, but it demands to be heard.
It also challenges us to examine our own assumptions about guilt and innocence, about justice and redemption. The Menendez brothers' story, with all its twists and turns, forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about abuse, trauma, and the limitations of our justice system.
It's one of those cases that stays with you long after you think you've got it all figured out. We've gone deep on the crime itself, the trials, the brothers' lives today, and this bombshell new evidence. And it feels like we're left with more questions than answers.
And that's the power of a deep dive, isn't it? Uncovering the layers of a story, revealing the complexities beneath the surface. The Menendez brothers' story, with all its twists and turns, forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths. It leaves us grappling with the question: if these abuse allegations are true, does it change how we view this case? Does it change our understanding of what happened that night in Beverly Hills?
It's a lot to unpack, and something tells me the story is far from over.